Right.
Making me title it. Hang on. Let me see what we call this.
You got it.
And I can't see you anymore. Is that normal?
It is. I have the counter up. Yes, I'll take this counter down.
Okay.
We'll go ahead and launch live in just about a minute and 15 seconds.
Perfect.
And here we are. Welcome for everyone joining us either live right now on LinkedIn or YouTube, or that's going to be watching this replay afterwards. My name is Stacy Bishop, and I'm joined here by one of my favorite humans that I've recently gotten a chance to know, Miss Anna Kate Mahaney. Thank you so much for joining us, Anna Kate.
Yes, thank you so much, Stacy. I'm glad to be here.
Oh, wonderful. Why don't we go ahead and start with just a little bit about you? We'll keep it brief and about me as well. I promise I'll try to say my name in less than 2 sentences after I give Anna Kate the chance to introduce herself. And then I'll go ahead and get started on the discussion at hand. Why don't you go ahead,
Okay.
Anna Kate?
Thank you so much. Yes. So I'm Anna Kate Mahaney. I am with William Mills Agency. So we are a full service public relations and marketing agency specializing in the financial industry. So especially fintechs are really some of our ideal clients. We love helping early stage fintechs as they figure out how to scale and how to market themselves to banks and credit unions. I've been here about 5 years. I am the marketing manager and marketing business development as well. So really excited to be joining you today.
Well, I'm excited to have you because you and the team at William Mills Agency do a fantastic job for the fintechs you serve. I'd be remiss if I also didn't mention that you served financial institutions as well. So you all are in the mix. You have a very unique perspective of how to serve this space and what makes sense in this space. But for everyone out there, my name is Stacy Bishop. I help Fintech Founders just partner with banks, as well as help banks in the banking as a service space find and partner and get into banking as a service and providing services to Fintech Founders. So I live in this happy little world of sales between these two very important parts of the financial services ecosystem, both fintechs and banks and credit unions. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And I asked Anna Kate to be part of this discussion because it's something that I often hear with the fintech founders that I get a chance to work with. And it's how do we go to market when we don't yet have a brand? So Anna Kate, that's kind of where I want to start, if you don't mind. And if I can, I'll provide a bit of context here. I grew up inside a very large core company, one of the big 3 core companies here in the United States. We also happen to use William Mills as our agency for many years, and I believe they still do. And what I had found in working with a very large logo with amazing marketing and press coverage, both in-house and in partnering with William Mills, is the sales cycle itself. It's just, I can't say it any other way. It's easier. It's flat out easier. When I decided to step into the fintech space and work with smaller fintech brands or startup fintech brands, it was a noticeable difference in trying to get people's attention, trying to gain traction, trying to sell a solution when you perhaps didn't have that large logo at your back. And I'm confident, Anna Kate, that you have likely seen this as well with fintechs that you've worked with, perhaps even financial institutions as well. Any thoughts around this that you have seen or you've seen your clients grapple with?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think you're spot on. When you're selling with brand cover, people know who you are and they kind of have an idea of why they should trust you. It
Right.
just makes it a lot easier, right? You come to the table and it's like, this is who we are. And people say, oh, yeah, we know, so and so recommended you to us, or we've heard your name everywhere. And so it's really, you're doing the selling, but you don't have to do the educating behind it quite as much. Versus when you don't have that brand cover, you really have to view every sales call as a full education process. It's not impossible. It's just a little bit harder and it makes things take a little bit longer. So you just need to know that going into it, that you're likely going to have to address the questions of who are you? Why should we trust you? How long have you been doing this? What are you solving for? Do you have any proof points? Do you have case studies? Do you have any other customers? Those are a lot of questions that you're going to have to be answering. And so I think going into it, prepared for that and knowing that those are some of the things that are going to be facing you will likely make you more successful as you work to sell without brand cover.
No, well said. To your point, the whole education during the sales cycle process, less than ideal. It is doable. It is so much more fun to walk into a conversation where people, they know about you. Even if they don't know you, they know about you. They have seen your name in the press. They have seen clever marketing campaigns. They've seen you showing up in publications they read. Again, even without the big logo, these types of things are doable as a nice next step. But a first step is, let's just continue to be very present and very intentional about the way in which you are promoting your fintech solution in those early days before you have perhaps get to the secondary component of evaluating a PR agency or a marketing agency as well. So I love that you gave people this feeling and this peace of mind that, listen, it's not insurmountable. You can sell when you are unknown, when you don't yet have brand coverage. You just need to be prepared, as you stated, Anna Kate, for things to take longer in an already lengthy sales cycle. So be intentional about education upfront and guide the discussion and guide the process to show a level of maturity within your sales cycle that perhaps the brand itself doesn't yet have. And I think you'll be well served with that information.
Absolutely. I think too, one more thing that you can try to do to kind of position yourself for success is if you can think ahead and try to have as many of those examples or case studies or demo videos that you can share with prospects as well, as many materials as you can kind of load yourself with to know that you're going to have those questions and then have answers for some of those questions. I think that's a great step as well.
You have nailed one of the very first exercises that I do, and no self-promotion aside, but any organization I'm in conversation with is to sit down and think through the great aspects of the organization, also the risk points, why a banker may say no to that organization and or to competitors that person has in the space as well, and then come up with answers, come up with solutions, and be prepared to address those as part of the sales cycle. Anna Kate, if I didn't know any better, I would think you're in sales. So
well, thank you.
You're welcome. Let's go ahead and move on, because I think as we evaluate the Fintech Founders journey, there are those early stages where these individuals perhaps don't have the money to throw just yet at formal sales efforts, formal marketing or PR efforts. And there is this trend that I absolutely love and support that we see in the fintech space, and that is a founder's personal brand, because that can carry you a long way. When a founder has a clear brand, a clear image, a clear story, and is showing up, even when it's uncomfortable. And I get it. Trust me, it's uncomfortable to be doing some of these things. But how do you think about even when someone engages you all at William Mills, promoting that founder brand? Are you still a fan of it whenever there's money to spend, or is that just something for early stage discussions?
Yeah, I think that we definitely are still a fan of that. It's a delicate balance, right? So we want the founder to be talking about the problem that they're solving and why that problem is important and what their solution to that is. And we want, the passion and all of that to come along with that. I think where you can kind of lean a little too heavily the other way is when it starts to get a little bit too self-promotional and it's like, look at what I built. Then, it can take a turn where it kind of takes a different path where it's not quite as helpful. But I think if the focus is on what you built and the problems that it's solving for, then the founder's personal brand is really important. I think a lot of other things to keep in mind along with that is just letting that passion and kind of transparency show through. I think passion is contagious. And when these founders create something they believe in, you want to hear about that, from their lens and why it's important to them. One really good example of that, I actually met John Patton, who's the CEO and founder of Street Charity at Money 2020. And I met him for coffee last week as well. And what he does and his passion for it is so contagious that I left and texted probably 10 people, you need to go look at this. You need to be a part of it. What he's doing is so cool. And that's because his passion just bleeds through. You can't help but want to be a part of what he's doing. So I think the more that people can let, their passion for the thing that they've created shine through, the more other people really want to be a part of it. And then another piece of that that's really important is just vulnerability and transparency and being willing to talk about mistakes that you've made and how they've helped you grow and how you can implement those things as you learn and build for the future. So Zach Duke of Finisec, he's another really good one that comes to mind for that. And I know when we would talk to him, he was always very open about what he was learning and how he was adapting because of it. And that just makes you trust people and, inherently trust the brand that they build when you feel like you can trust the person behind the brand. So those are some good things to keep in mind. But a founder's personal brand is super important in storytelling, I think.
I'm going to dig into these pieces a bit with you. And why don't we start with the passion that comes through? How does a founder, how does that come through? Do they need to be on video? Are you able to pick that up in their written words? Do they need to be showing up at events? Is it all of the above? Where do you all advise founders that you work with in that front?
I think all of the above are great places to be, but I think the biggest thing is just consistency. I think it doesn't matter necessarily what format it's taking quite as much, but we just need to see your name out there regularly and see that you're regularly contributing to the conversation. John and Zach, those that I just mentioned, they're both very good at that, of regularly, mentioning what they're doing and, why they're passionate about it, what they're learning, how they're growing. And I think that people believe that and they trust it. I think another good thing is to always be willing to comment on industry trends and what's going on. So when these founders are able to kind of be dynamic and talk about what's going on in the industry and pull it back to what they're solving for, I think that really helps position them as a thought leader as well.
I have learned the term is newsjacking.
Yes.
Look, exactly. It's like I'm an insider, but I'm not. Clearly, I'm not. But
we use that term a lot in our world. Yes,
I love it. Well, I want to then, before we move on to the next question, I have a couple more thoughts around what I heard you say. So moving on to Zach, I completely agree. Zach, he is so affable and so just generous with the way in which he shows up, but that authenticity as well and sharing mistakes. And I will tell you, anytime I advise fintech founders or sellers that are selling on behalf of fintechs themselves, one of my big recommendations is let's not be robotic. Let's showcase your personality, showcase the areas in which, as you mentioned, areas where perhaps these people hit a roadblock, hit an obstacle, had to pivot, fell flat on their face. I know I have had years of those learnings. I have learned so many different ways not to sell banking software to banks and credit unions that I could write a book on this discussion. Maybe I should someday. But that type of element, I think, makes you more relatable. Because if I am a banker sitting at a credit union or inside a bank's walls and someone comes in and they have an answer for everything and the answer is always yes, or I can't get a good read on them as a person, I don't have that trust factor. And I identify in this day and age of AI, I identify with the authenticity I pick up from a person, definitely their passion, as you mentioned with John, the vulnerability to say, we may not have this all figured out yet. We've got a smart team and we're going to figure it out. Or we hadn't looked at it from that angle. That's why these conversations with bankers like you are so important. Here's our path into how we think we could make that happen. And if you'd like to proceed forward, we can even look at a time frame. So I guess what I'm saying as it relates to both PR with a personal brand and authenticity and vulnerability, the same plays out in the sales realm as well. People want to work and do business with people, and trust is much more important these days, especially than likability, than affability. You can't beat it. I have one final question for you, because I know you must work with fintech founders that are not comfortable being in the spotlight, and they would rather showcase the brand versus them as a face of the brand, or they would rather showcase a co-founder or someone else in the business. Any thoughts or advice? I realize I'm catching you off guard here, but you might have for individuals that don't wish to be the star of the story. They'd rather the business do that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it is important to get outside of your comfort zone a little bit, because, you know, as we've mentioned, people do want to see the face behind the brand, and they want to have that trust that, like you said, if you go and your answer is always yes, and you are never honest about any hardship you've ever faced, it can be really hard to trust. Okay, well, even if you've never hit a hardship before, which that's unlikely, but let's say it's never happened. If something did happen, how would you handle it? Like we don't have the trust to know, you know, how you would go about this. So I do think it is really, really important to put yourself out there. But I do understand not everyone's as comfortable with that. So I think in a situation like that, if you could at least focus on the team behind what you've built. So, you know, if you have a co-founder at least, or a couple people as you're kind of scaling this, highlight different people on your team and, you know, the faces behind the brand and how everyone has an integral part, so that at least people are getting to see some of the faces behind the brand, I think would be a really good step.
I love that. They see both your face as the founder, but also your face highlighting the amazing talent and resources that help bring this solution. It has a nice feel to it. That makes me feel good as a person, even just hearing that. And I think bankers, it would as well, because we all know that companies are not made up of one. There might be one visionary, sure, but there are a lot of people, a lot of hands that come together to make that vision a reality. These are excellent, excellent points. I am going to go ahead and move on to the next question. I reserve the right to come back to this one, but this next one is one that is almost a religious discussion. And my answer to this one might surprise you, but I'm interested from your point of view. Which comes first whenever a founder has a little bit of resources, be it seed money, friends and family money, or a round of funding? Where should they put those efforts? Marketing and PR or sales? I'll let you go first, and then I'll share mine.
Yes. So I know this is a very highly debated topic. So personally, I would say it's not an either or. It's how are you going to sequence it, and how are you going to layer it? So the reason that I say that, if you start selling and you have no marketing foundation whatsoever, you don't have a ton to go off of, right? Like the initial piece of marketing is you need a website, you need somewhere to direct people back to. And I would say that's a marketing play. Then you can start to sell a little bit. And then as you're selling and you see what people are asking for, maybe it's case studies. Maybe people really need, some type of white paper from you. Maybe they want a one-pager. Then you would know that needs to be developed. And then that pushes you back over to marketing. And then you take that back to the sales cycle and you see what else people are asking for. So the way I look at it, it's really a layered approach of bouncing back and forth. And there are going to be times that you're focusing more heavily on one than the other, just depending on what people are asking of you. But I don't think you can truly do either or without at least a little bit of the other kind of boosting you and building a foundation.
Okay, that makes very logical sense. I'm not trying to be contrarian. I have my view on this has shifted over time, full transparency. Where I land today on this is I know that it's super easy to say, we need revenue. Let's hire salespeople. And teams and founders will go out and hire a CRO. They will hire a VP of sales. They will hire BDRs to make outbound phone calls and blast the marketplace with emails that are not personalized, or maybe they are. They'll hire AEs and sellers to get out there. And I'm not saying that's a horrible strategy. I would advise against it. I'm a bit more of a devotee these days of looking at unit metrics, like the unit economics, to understand at what point in time it makes sense to scale the sales side of the house versus marketing. And this may surprise you, Anna Kate, as a person that grew up in sales, but I actually prefer to put money towards marketing and brand cover until the unit economics, one of the key ones that I have been taught to look at the past 5 years or so, is LTV to CAC, until that represents a significant enough value and growth and our ability to go out and acquire customers cheaply over a longer period of time. That's when I like to throw fuel on the sales machine. Until LTV to CAC is like, I don't know, a 3 to 2 ratio, something in that arena, I like to throw money. And I shouldn't say throw money, like not like we're making it rain up here. I think a better use or allocation of funds could be towards marketing and PR, because in those early days when you're building the brand equity and you're getting that air cover with the brand, and you're showing up on stages, you're showing up in publications, you're showcased as a thought leader from the founder level, that to me reaps bigger rewards. And keep the sales side scrappier. Use that to drive demand until such time as it makes sense. And again, I haven't always thought that way. That's a bit more of an inspired view that I have the past 5 years ish or so. But and I don't think there's any right or wrong answer here. I think it's all about balance. Mm-hmm. You need both. It's just at what levels you need both. Yes. And perhaps even when you need both. And that's what I want to get into with this next question. I'm not sure about you, Anna Kate, but I think there are key moments in a company's life cycle or their maturity cycle when it makes sense to throw more money towards or invest more in the marketing and the PR aspect. And I think that people view sometimes PR as I'm not sure. I've never formally scientifically tested this, but I believe sometimes people think in terms of PR at a launch, and then that's it, and then it's marketing from there. And to me, there are very noticeable differences between marketing and PR. Perhaps we should even talk about that. And I do think, in my mind, that there are key elements in time in a company cycle where it does make sense to invest in PR specifically. Always marketing. But when you are launching, perhaps when you are coming into a new market, like perhaps a fintech coming into the US banking vertical, things along those lines, I think lend themselves nicely to throwing more fire on the PR engine. But I'd be super interested to hear your point of view, or your more educated view, and where you think it could be right or wrong there.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with everything that you're saying. So I think obviously when a company's launching, that's a time that's really important if they're breaking into a new market. So that could be a US market, or that could be that they have a new product line or a new platform that's a little bit different than what they've done before. So they're needing to target a different part of the industry. That could also be a really good time for that. And then another one, we actually just saw this one very recently. We have a brand new client that just came to us because they had really big news for a huge partnership that just became official, and they wanted our help getting the word out there for that. So they had drafted a press release, but beyond that, they didn't really know what to do with it, and they wanted it to get a lot of attention. And so they engaged with us to help get the press release out, but to also, pitch out, byline ideas surrounding that, and just draw a lot of attention to the fact that this announcement was happening. So there are definitely times, like you said, where it makes sense to throw more fuel on the fire. I think from a marketing perspective, you kind of mentioned the differences in marketing and PR. It's really important for us too to have the PR teams kind of, getting all of this interest around these big announcements or launches or things like that. And then that gives the marketing team more to run with as well. So I think that they can complement each other very nicely. When you are announcing these big things and securing coverage, then that's great material for your marketing people to be able to turn around and repurpose. And you can send out, emails highlighting different pickups that you've had. You can repost that on social. There's all different ways of doing it. Show it in the newsroom on your website. Lots of places that can really kind of add that third-party validation to what you're doing. But that is a super, super important part of making sure that people are able to kind of track each stage of your maturity cycle through the right coverage.
That through line is absolutely accurate, the PR to marketing. And I would even suggest you thread that on through to your sales cycle as well. Mm-hmm. It is so much more fun to be able to reach back out to a prospect or someone that you're nurturing with a piece of news, with a piece of excitement that could provide value to them versus just checking in, wanted to see if anything has changed and if you're ready to reengage. No, mm-hmm. Providing value and value that showcases your expertise or excitement around your organization is going to be much more sophisticated of a play and just much more successful, I think, in the long run when you just bleed that on through. And Anna Kate, just in case there are individuals out there that have just not been exposed to marketing versus PR, do you care to give us just a brief little review in your mind of the differences between the two?
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say public relations is going to be more of the traditional media type. So that's going to be things like press releases, byline opportunities, interviews. So like that could look like a podcast interview or something like that. Award submissions, speaker submissions, everything kind of in that realm that has to do with media relations. And then on the marketing side, that's going to be really how you are marketing the brand, how you're marketing the opportunities that you're getting, and then how you're, creating those pieces that prove that people should trust you, that you're a thought leader in the space, and that, what you're solving for and how you can help the industry. So on the marketing side, we do everything from landing page creation, social media creation, creating forms for people to convert. So that whole inbound marketing sales cycle funnel is really where we specialize there. We also assist with executive social. So if some of these founders, they know they need to have more of a voice, but they don't know how, that's an area where we come in and help as well. Yes, for sure. And then also white paper development, blog development, and then SEO, and then AI search optimization audits as well. So that's kind of what we do on the marketing side of the house. And I will say that companies that invest in both, we definitely see the highest ROI for, exactly, because of what I was saying. They're able to kind of feed off of each other. And what the PR team is securing, we can run further with that on the marketing side. Then on the flip side, when we're creating marketing materials, if we see themes and topics that are really resonating with the audience, we're able to take that back to the PR side and say, this is really hitting, pitch out topics related to this. And then it works together really nicely.
Yeah. And I'm a girl that loves a good campaign. Even more so, I love a coordinated campaign around a theme. And let's be clear, these marketing efforts and these PR efforts, the themes that run through them can change over time, should change over time. You can't just keep banging the same brand drum unless you're, I can't even think of a brand that has not really changed these days. We're seeing some iconic brands go through new brand imagery, new brand voices, and they're keeping that consistent across channels, across the way they show up, both in print, in the media, as well as on the stage. So be prepared for a good theme to run throughout the organization and the buyer's journey from awareness, education, ultimately to selling them, and then be prepared to change that and do that all over again, because the market is fickle. We want new all the time.
Yes, exactly.
Well, I'm going to go ahead and move on to this next question. This one as well is, I have found there's not an easy answer to it. It nicely complements what we were discussing earlier, but I would love to know your view on when to scale up marketing. I'll do this from the sales side if you don't mind, but or you can weigh in from the sales side. You can you tell me what you'd like to do, but have you thought about you're engaged with a client and it makes sense now to move things upstream a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think really kind of hitting on both here, you know when to scale up when you start to see a level of repeatability in what you're doing. So when you're seeing, prospects come in and they're asking largely for the same things, and rather than having to create some kind of like custom implementation, you're able to kind of hone in on this is the pain point we're solving for, and this is why people are coming to us. I think that's a really good indicator that, there is maybe an area for more of a process to start to be in place with what you're doing. And, you can kind of start to scale and build out these processes for your team to ultimately grow the company. So I think that's a really good indicator kind of on both sides. I would also say when it gets to the point where the founder or whoever's involved is feeling like things are starting to slip through the cracks, or they're not able to be as responsive as they would like to be, or they feel like they have to slow down and, building the product because they're so overwhelmed with sales and marketing. That's also a really good indicator that it might be time to loop in some outside help.
Yeah, I love this. I'm a big fan of, I guess, starting where you are and using resources that you have. And I don't think that always means you have to have that talent in-house. I do think you are well served to evaluate opportunities to partner with people to do your marketing efforts, your PR efforts, even sales efforts. Like, if I could advise fintech founders out there against anything, it is hiring those big titles, especially on the sales side, where there's also big comp plans involved, before you have the brand coverage, before the unit economics make sense. And there are teams out there that can help you to work fractionally, both, as you see here from William Mills, on the marketing and the PR side. Of course, that's something that I do, but I also recommend companies all the time if you have particular needs. And that's just a way to prove out the market, prove out your messaging before you have to bring on those big type of comp packages that these two teams will demand, and they should demand, because they're going to be good at their jobs. And at that point in time, I think it makes better sense, when you see that repeatability you mentioned, Anna Kate, to evaluate bringing things in-house. But I will say, definitely on the PR, on the marketing side, I don't think they're mutually exclusive, in-house talent and agency talent. I have seen more and more, my goodness, fintech companies of all sizes utilizing both types of avenues for just campaigns and launches. And that's simply because I think sometimes that operational in-house insight is invaluable. It works well. These people know the business. But perhaps they don't have all of the network contacts. They don't have the analyst contacts. They don't have the publication contacts, the event contacts, and they complement each other nicely. Am I off base there, or am I just trying to make these poor people spend more money that's not necessary?
No, I think that is absolutely true. I would say most often on the marketing side, when we're working with a company, they have at least one marketing person in-house as well. And we're really working to be an extension of them and complement what they're doing, rather than replace, your entire marketing team entirely. So we actually have a client, I think she's watching, so hello if you are, but she's on their marketing team, and she makes our life so much easier because she knows all the ins and outs of the company. And so when we need approvals on things, or the best way to go about things, or who should we talk about to have expertise in a certain area, she always knows what direction to point us in. And without her, we would be lost. And so I think that really, really helps to have the person in there. And then we really work as an extension of them, like you said, to, help with the best practices, help with all of the contacts, the industry trends, what should we be commenting on, and kind of see it from that bird's eye view to really help inform them on what they should be doing. And then I think back to your point about hiring people fractionally too, I think that can be such a great play, both with sales and marketing, for a couple of reasons. But I think one is, oftentimes when you hire someone fractionally, the spend is less than obviously hiring someone full time, but you can often get people with more experience at, sometimes a better price. So I think that can be really beneficial. And then I think also when you're looking at kind of that fractional role, a lot of times those people do have a lot of experience working with lots of different companies, often kind of in your stage. And so they also bring a lot of very valuable experience to the table of what has worked before and what hasn't worked. And sometimes I feel like it can save you, some of the pain of having to try to work all of it out when they already kind of have a good idea of how to scale up a company that's similar in size, to you.
Oh, that's so well stated. And I didn't even pay Anna Kate to say anything like that. I know we're speaking more generally. There's amazing talent out there just wanting to work with fintech founders like you. So do some homework, just do some searching, and you will find an amazing person. But something you mentioned there just at the end leads me into the next question. And it's kind of like when you look at talent, when you look at even ideas that this talent has, there's a lot of creativity. And I want to just lead into this last topic that I've thrown out there as just an idea, because I have seen some very fun PR campaigns in my lifetime. And I want to share these with you, Anna Kate, and for anyone that might be interested, might want to hear these. I just have two. I'll keep it brief. I can drone on about this forever. And then love for you to weigh in or provide any other thoughts around how we can utilize PR. But my two favorite use cases of PR that I've seen, and they're not specific to fintech at all. I'll say that up front. These were SaaS organizations. But the first one, an organization went and bought an ad in Times Square. $500, 1 hour, beautiful graphic highlighting their company. So I've seen this as like we're launching a new product, we're launching a new vertical, new market, partnership, as you mentioned earlier, Anna Kate, and we want people to know about it. $500 was the price point at this point for the ad size they bought, 1 hour, and they paid to have a photographer go to Times Square and take pictures of this ad and all the hustle and bustle of New York City around it. And what it did, and the way they used it on socials and in articles, is it helped them legitimize themselves. It made them look bigger than perhaps the brand was at that point. And the spend on that was minimal, $500 plus the price of a photographer for an hour. I don't know what that was overall, but I don't think there was a comma involved at that juncture, folks. So that was a very creative way that I have seen this type of an angle used. And I love that one. I think that could be so heavily utilized in the fintech space for anyone that wants to give it a whirl. And that could be something you do on your own. That could be something that you work with like an agency like William Mills to do. The other thing, and I think this, it depends on your product. It depends on your ICP as well, who you're going after, your buyer persona. But the other one that I saw also used in the SaaS space, not in fintech, but a favorite of mine, was this organization went out and bought regional ads in the regional Wall Street Journal. So I learned as part of this process, there is the Wall Street Journal that's distributed, yes, at a national scale, but in certain markets, you can purchase local ads. So think of Dallas, think of New York, or in the California markets. And they bought a big page spread and talking about their company leading up to an event. And it worked extremely well for them. So not knowing enough about the way the Wall Street Journal distributes its markets geographically, that could be a very fun one, because there are pockets of bank charters around this country of ours that kind of a play could make fun sense to do or to try. If you have something to say and you want to be big and you want to say, hey, we're in the Wall Street Journal about this topic, that could be a nice angle. And it was also a cost-effective price point. Anna Kate, I don't know if you have other takes on this or other things that you might share about some PR related efforts. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I love both of your examples. I think those are both so fun. And if anyone buys an ad in Times Square, please let us know, because I would love to see that. But yes, a slightly different take or just idea, I guess, that we've kind of seen is I truly feel like the best PR campaigns that tend to help the companies we serve the most are the ones that aren't really focused on the self-promotional, on necessarily what we can do or, what we do for you, but the ones that are helping people. So the ones that are just genuinely trying to help and trying to make an impact and identifying a need in the industry and then saying, hey, we could step up to the plate and we could solve for that. That helps with brand recognition. It definitely gets your name out there. And I think that people walk away with a really good taste in their mouth because it genuinely is just you trying to help. And I think that we've seen that can really, pay off when that really is your true intent behind something. So one, I guess, personal example I can use at William Mills Agency, we put out our trade show guide every year. And that's just something where we saw a need in the industry. There was nowhere where it was all compiled in one place and our clients were asking for it. And so we put it together. And, it has become the biggest thing annually that we put out every year. And we have clients and prospects and industry, influencers and contacts that are asking for it every single year. And that's something where we just saw a need that we could fill. And so we did it. And, it has paid off for us, not in the way that we even thought that it would. But, it's just a result of doing what you can to help and then, kind of getting something back in return. So that's a really fun example. But yeah, Stacey, love yours as well.
Thanks. I do. I mean, it is the de facto standard, the William Mills Trade Show Directory. I direct everyone out there. I put the website up here because it is something that you need to know. Go to this website. Bottom right corner, you'll be able to see that you can access and sign up to get that directory. And it is invaluable. It is something, like I said, I tell everyone about. I've used it for years because I've learned about it in my Jack Henry days. And if you haven't yet discovered this one, you guys, hidden jewel. Please go out and take note of that. And I guess with that, Anna Kate, we are at an end here. Any last thoughts around selling with brand cover versus without brand cover, parting words of wisdom?
Yeah, I mean, I think just definitely let your passion shine through. Always bring it back to the problem that you are solving for. Rather than focusing on some of the self-promotional aspects of, how great your brand is, really focus on what are you solving for? Who are you trying to help? Why is that a pain point? And what can you do to fix it? And I think at the end of the day, you can't go wrong with that.
I love that. Everything you've mentioned there works in sales as well. Being authentic, letting your passion shine through there, and then also tying things back to a problem and talking about how you can help people solve that problem, making that financial institution the hero in solving that problem for themselves with your services. You cannot go wrong regardless of whether you have brand cover or not. So I hope each of you out there that are watching this have discovered some tips on how you can go about selling without brand cover. If you're early stage, we get it. Everyone starts somewhere. And not having that brand recognition is not something that's going to hold you back if you use some of these other smart suggestions that you heard from Anna Kate in order to go about selling your solution or promoting yourselves in a very authentic and memorable way. And then you'll find that when you do have that brand cover, these same types of aspects, these same philosophies will fill you going forward and position you and your team and your company for continued growth. So with that, I want to thank everyone who's joining us here live, everyone who's watching this as well after the fact. Hope you have a fantastic day. And Anna Kate, thank you so much for joining me.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It was great.
You bet. Bye all.